James, do you have any what? And I look at it because the realtor was the seller. So he wrote everything in it. During your during your mailbox, there's like everything has to be because it never even got matched. Oh, we don't take them to Centerville. They're down there. I won't, but everything you're arguing. Are there teams that practice in Centerville?
There's nothing in Centerville too.
Yeah.
They took the soda machine and snack machine out because nobody was using it.
Well, James is apparently very good.
Good morning.
Good
morning. Good morning. 9:30. We're going to start on time and get out of here on time. Hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. Have a lot of information to cover today. One thing before we get started, which doesn't really affect our office, but kind of affects our office, and if that's a good way to say it. For those of you that know Becky Miller, who is the manager at Centerville, she is having she's in the hospital. She's been there for a little while. She has some bleeding on her brain, has nothing to do with her recurring cancer, but she's in the hospital and she may be there for a while. Now, for those of you that know her, this is going to sound counterintuitive. Please do not try to contact her, and please do not send her anything. Don't send her texts. Don't send her emails. She is supposed to rest her brain, literally. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that is Colleen is spending a lot of time at the Centerville Road office trying to pick up the slack for Becky. So for those of you that see Colleen here 2, sometimes 3 days a week, you may see her here maybe 1 day a week. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that on a twofold basis. Number one, to let you know about Becky, because a lot of you know of Becky. And also Colleen's schedule has been impacted by this. So, okay. Yeah, Dan.
There's a third-party website that somebody set up.
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
I am.
Okay.
I'm on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Caring Bridge website. I can certainly put out the link to everybody, but once again, you can post messages on there and things like that. But she is really supposed to remain as calm as possible, not do any reading. So it's the brain's a very interesting thing.
Was it a stroke?
No. Nope. So anyway, she's doing the best she can, trying to come back from this, but I wanted to make sure everybody is aware. Okay. And thank you, Colleen, for helping out and filling in. So we're going to go first of all, by the way, the title of this is what to say to buyers when they want to bail on you. Not only in transactions, but literally they want to bail on you because they started looking at homes 9 months ago and have submitted 12 agreements. And now they're getting closer to getting something, but interest rates are going up and prices are going up. And now they're saying, I'm out of here. So we're going to talk a lot about that because I've heard from you some interesting things that you've said and some things that I've gotten from you as to how to overcome these things. So I thought I'd share it with everybody today. But first of all, hopefully this will work. Yep.
Yay.
Maybe my battery's dead. Give me a second. There we go. So first up is Sarah. We're changing it up today.
I have a settlement, so.
About a foot away.
So I'm actually not doing anything title related at all. So that should make this very interesting. I have a basket, it's s'mores season, and I have a basket of s'mores ingredients to give away. What?
Back up. Back up.
I don't want to be on camera.
Yep.
Oh, my list is over there.
Right there.
Colleen, can you grab my list? Thanks.
Gotta learn how to get on camera.
I'll figure it out one day. So in our little basket of goodies, we have marshmallows, Kit Kats, Reese's peanut butter cups, chocolate bar, and some graham crackers for you to win. Dan is going to keep track of who gets the answers right in the room, and Colleen is going to keep track of who gets the answers right in the chat box. So I have about 8 questions to ask. They're all s'more related. Sure, whoever's a, I don't know, just whatever you want to do. I have no rules to this. All right, what was the original name of the treat? What was it originally called? Of a s'more. What was the original name of a s'more? Some more. Who said it? Ange Clausen got it. Yeah. Yes, because I need to give your children chocolate. All right, what is National S'mores Day? No, August 10th. That was a good guess. That would have been great. What city in the United States consumes more s'mores than anyone else? No. Grand Rapids, Michigan. Who invented s'mores and where was the recipe first recorded? The Girl Scouts in 1927. How many pounds of marshmallows are bought for s'mores each year? $90 million pounds. And what percentage of that is used for s'mores? 50%. Invented in 1900, each section of a Hershey bar is called a pip. How many pips are used for a s'more? Yep, 6. Who was that? Tammy. Uh-oh. Where was the largest s'more created? Just keep yelling out Hershey, Brenda. Gardner, Pennsylvania. It was 267 pounds. All right, so did anybody in the chat get any of the answer? Okay, so Ange and what should the tiebreaker be? Oh, we're just giving it to Ange? If it was all liquor, you probably would have taken that. I could probably do that. That's actually all I have. Nothing title related at all.
All right. Up next is Dan.
Dan, I'll give you something worthwhile.
Hopefully, yes. All right, good morning, everyone. James has a settlement, so that's why he's not here. So 2 quick things I wanted to cover. 2 new programs, features we have at Homesale Mortgage. First is we introduced a quick close program last month. Basically, this is a 21-day close. We've implemented it. I think we've had 6 so far that we've done, got them closed in 21 days. So this is obviously for a buyer that has that need to be able to close quickly for whatever the reason may be. If you have any buyer candidates, basically we're getting all their documentation and kind of doing a pre-underwriting up front. And just with obviously when it goes under agreement, then we just need to get the appraisal and title and everything done at that point in time. Obviously, this can't be PHFA, USDA, so on and so forth, but and they can't be self-employed borrowers as well because of needing tax transcripts. But 21-day close, we've been successful with everyone we've done thus far. So if you have a buyer candidate that needs that, we'd be more than happy to get that done.
Any extra fee for that?
There is not. No extra fee. No. And then secondly, we just introduced a new financing program. I have not done any of these yet, so I'm just kind of learning all the details. But basically, it's 100% financing portfolio program, and there's no mortgage insurance with it. So it is, if anyone is familiar with the Fulton Bank program, they have a CRA, which is Community Reinvestment Act program. It is designed for lower to moderate income borrowers. And it can be done with a credit score down to 620. It can be coupled with tenfold, which is what LHOP used to be as well. So it's 100% financing, 620 credit score, max loan amount is $250,000. They do not have to be a first-time home buyer. And they just can't own another home at application. It's a 30-year loan. Interest rate is fairly comparable to current market rates. And the income limits kind of mirror what Tenfold does as well. So it's a pretty good program from what I've seen on it. Again, I haven't done anything with it because it's a portfolio program. It's a manual underwrite. Basically what that means, it's about a 45-day close minimum. So we can't couple this obviously with a quick close program. But if you have any prospective buyers that would be interested or in need of this, just reach out to James or myself, and we'd be happy to take a look and see how we can best help them. So that's all I have.
Do you have a flyer on that?
I do have a marketing flyer with notes on, but
Perfect.
we will put something together and kind of send it out to everyone so they have some bullet points. And if you want any specific flyers for it, we can obviously generate those as well.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
James.
And yeah, I just got a quick article about some home landscaping do's and don'ts, and they're kind of the same thing as some things that come up on insurance inspections as well too. So number one, I'd see that come back, I would say would probably be tree maintenance with things like trees basically just touching the dwelling. Insurance companies are going to write back on that because that could cause a loss to the home as well, especially during a storm. And homeowners definitely want to maintain that as well too, because if there's something that they do not upkeep, that's possible that it could be a negligence basically. So and trees that grow close to power lines, that's something that's a concern as well too. And this is just more of a for your homeowner. Next thing would be diverting water away from the home. I see a few of these I've seen as well too, where downspouts are disconnected from the house or not attached to the house, and that can cause water to pool as well too. So that's something that they certainly would write out on, and you want to make sure that as a homeowner that's something you take care of as well too. And then clean gutters as well too. Leaves in the gutters, that can be something that can be a little bit of a chore to fix, but that's something that they should certainly consider. And usually most of the time I don't get too many things back on inspections, but they're usually quick fixes, but it is what it is. And that's just something that all homeowners should make sure to take care of for their house. So that's basically all I have.
You want to leave the mic with Colleen?
Yep.
Just in case you need it, right? Thanks. Thank you, James. Yep. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Wanted to make everybody aware, Cinch is changing up and improving their program. They're going to be adding more things to their list of things that they will repair. I'm not going to get into all the details because there are a lot of them. We will have new brochures coming in on June 13th or thereabouts. If you are in the process right now of either selling a warranty or one that's in place, just keep using what we have right up until June 13th. And then June 13th, even if you're using one of the brochures that is older, the new stuff will kick in. Even though once again, you're using an older brochure. So I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that. If you have any questions, you see Desmond's cell phone and email there. Okay. So Bright is changing again. Now, these things are really, really important. There are some big changes. These are effective as of July 1st. I'm going to get into some scenarios because every scenario that you see up here has been either done in this office, and as of after July 1st, it will be a violation. So I don't want to have anybody get fined. Now, Janice, I've made her aware of these. These all have to do with listing stuff. So Janice is aware of it, and she will be taking the webinar that is coming up. And by the way, it's available to you. Once you log into Bright initially, you can see a thing off to the right-hand side of the screen where you can get into the webinar and you can listen in greater detail as to what I'm going to review here. But these are pretty important. All timeframes will now be calendar instead of business. Now that may not seem like a big thing, but you couple this with what number 2 is here, and it's a huge thing. As President or ex-President Trump would say, it is a huge thing. 3 days, okay, which you'll see up here, it used to be 3 business days. So you could take a listing on a Friday and not have to enter it until essentially next Wednesday in the computer because of it being Saturday and Sunday being non-business days. Or if you couple with a Memorial Day, then you didn't have to enter it till Thursday. And by the way, a lot of agents took advantage of this, okay? So they looked at it and they said, this isn't really the way this is designed to happen. So they're going to eliminate that. So keep in mind, business days will go away, calendar days will kick in. The second thing, deadline to submit listings or changes to listings is being reduced to 2 calendar days. 2 calendar days. So once again, if you take a listing on a Friday, it's got to be in by Sunday. So if you rely on Janice to enter your listings, this is going to impact you. You will be in violation if you wait till Monday to enter that listing into Bright. Everybody follow what I'm saying here, okay? And don't throw tomatoes at the person that is delivering the message, okay? And the third one is showings need to start the day the listing goes into the MLS. No more holding off a couple of days. So a lot of agents, and nobody in here, but a lot of agents would take a listing and then they would go into showing time and they would say, no listings for no showings for 3 or 4 days, which would allow you to essentially have a coming soon listing that is actually advertised on Zillow and Realtor.com. As you know, coming soon listings are not advertised on Realtor.com and Zillow. Okay, so agents were getting around this by putting the listing in and then not having it shown for a week. That goes away also. So keep in mind, these are 3 pretty big changes that will impact how you're putting listings into the computer, when you're taking a listing, those type of things. Any questions on this? Any questions? Yeah, Bob.
Coming soon now. I just read this yesterday. You can go 21 days, they're coming soon. It says from the time it goes into the MLS. So, but you could still allow 3 calendar days. So until it goes active, you can do 24 days. That's the way I read.
No, because 3 is going down to 2. Once again, it's now 2 days, not 3 anymore. So you're right, except for the last portion of what you said there.
Okay, but this is July 1st.
Right. So
if you take something July 1st, you have no July 4th is a Monday now.
yeah, if you have any questions, and by the way, here's another thing I would say. I get a lot of Bright questions from you guys. Like I know everything there is to know about Bright, which I don't. So Bright has a really, really good support number. Now, a lot of you got turned off by their support number right after Bright kicked off because you would wait on their support line for hours before somebody would get on. I would say over the last year or two, when I call their, I think it's an 855 number, you are connected to a representative within a minute. So, you know, if you have questions regarding timing or things like that, please just pick up the phone and call Bright support. Because if you get fined and you use as an excuse, well, my manager told me it was okay to do this, that ain't gonna fly. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Google. And this is the top. How can I get rid of that? Give me 1 second. There we go. So Teamhomesale has migrated to Google Drive. If you haven't gone through the instructions for this, it's pretty simple. There were instructions sent out this past week. There was a short video that Jen Jones did that shows you how to do this. But I'm going to run through it here real quick with you. Everybody does have a company Google account right now. You log into your Google account, and now it's going dead again. Click those 9 dots in the upper right-hand corner. Then you click on the drive icon. The drive icon looks exactly like that. Click Share Drives and Homesale Agents. Now, one of the advantages of this is it's really, really easy to search. Teamhomesale in the past, if you tried to search in the search box of Teamhomesale, it would sit there and it would spin and it would spin and it would spin and it would spin. And about a half hour later, after you grabbed a cup of coffee, the results would come up, and half the time it would say no results. You're going to have instantaneous results right now. Okay. So to access the content, you can do it through the Google app, which you can get the Google App Drive app on your phone. Okay. So you don't have to be sitting in front of a laptop. The search capability is just tremendous. It's real easy. It's instantaneous. It's not like the old Teamhomesale. And Homesale support has changed up a little bit. There's now an email address called support@homesale.com, which has always been there, but they now have Google Chat, which I've used one time already, and it was really, really nice because they got back to me literally within a minute or two. So Google Chat is available now for you with anything having to do with your Google account. All right. So I wanted to introduce Chrissy, who's here in our audience. Say hi, Chrissy. Okay. Chrissy, what office are you based out of?
Primarily West York.
Okay.
But I kind of float around.
And she's floating here today. Chrissy does a lot of training, and she's going to continue to keep doing that. I sent out an email making everybody aware that she'll be available after this meeting in case anybody wants to get involved with doing anything with the resource center. She's very good at doing newsletters and social media stuff. So there's no formal set training. She can basically do some hands-on stuff with you here. So if you have your laptop here at the office, stick around afterwards or just grab a bite to eat, and she'll sit with you and she'll run through some things that will benefit you using the resource center. Okay. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so.
Oh, wait.
The resource center,
Hold on.
Thank you, Colleen.
A lot of people get the resource center confused with Homesale Center. It's two completely different things. The resource center is actually the national brand of Berkshire Hathaway, their marketing center. So everything on there looks really professional, is compliant, and you don't have to worry about anything. There's everything from postcards to really professional looking commercial videos that you can post, tons of stuff for either print or social media, kind of whatever you want to use, it's probably on there. So yeah, fantastic resource.
Thank you. All right, there's also new brochures that we've updated, which Janice has a supply behind her desk. I'm going to pass around some ones here, just some samples. There's a general brochure just talking about home sale in general. Any of these, by the way, can be personalized to you. Now, there's a cost for that. These are generic ones that don't have your name on it. But if you want, you can order them through our company and you can get your name and if you have a logo or any of the things to personalize it to you. I'm going to start one over here, start the other one over here so you can pass it around. They also have buyer and seller guides. And it's pretty interesting in that one side is the buyer guide. And if you flip it over, it is the seller guide. So you open it up on one side and it has to do with seller things. You open it up on the other, it has to do with buyer stuff. I'll pass this one over here, this one over here. There is also a countdown to move. This is an updated version of one of the older brochures. Now this one at this point in time is in PDF format only. I'm going to see if they're going to get this printed, but this is what it looks like. You can print it off on the color printer, and it's, once again, you can personalize these. I only have one of these, so I'll start it over here, pass that around. Payload Keybox. I've been asked to talk about this briefly because while we're using it, which is really good, sometimes we're using it incorrectly. So a couple of things for you. The link that we have to our Payload Keybox is for our escrow account. So if you're dealing with a co-op transaction, and when I say a co-op transaction, the other side has the listing, don't put it into our escrow account. Okay? Now that sounds very, very remedial, except it's happening. So it's not for co-op transactions where the other side has the listing, all right? However, if we are the list side and we do want it to go into our Payload Keybox, a lot of people, and this is probably my fault, a lot of people think that once you put it into Payload Keybox, it just goes into our general escrow account. Well, North Pointe and Quarryville have a separate escrow account than Centerville, Ephrata, Mountjoy, and Elizabethtown. So don't use the link if you are dealing, if you're having a transaction with an Elizabethtown agent. Don't use our Payload Keybox link. Contact them and get their link. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And while we're talking about this, let's talk about deposits in general. By the way, the thing that we just went through over the last 18 months or so has done wonders to increase the size of deposits, because now everybody wants to get their agreement, under, that's competing with 10 and 15 and 20 agreements, which is a good thing. However, a lot of agents have discovered that if they don't give you the deposit, you can't do anything about it. I'm going to say that again. If you don't give the deposit, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't sue. As long as that little box is checked off at the end of the agreement of sale that says it's limited to the deposit money. A lot of agents have all of a sudden found out about this. So they're leaving the agreement of sale at 5 days to submit the deposit, and then the buyer stews for 5 days and looks at other stuff and finds something that they like better, or they get cold feet. And then they say, I'm not going to give you the deposit. And then the other agent gets really upset, okay? And by the way, I've probably heard this, and I've been involved with these conversations, I'll bet 20 times, just out of this office alone, okay? Both from our side and from the co-op side. So I'm going to make some suggestions for you here. Start negotiating the number of days. 5 is the standard in our standard agreement of sale. Get rid of it and put in 1 day. Just get rid of it and put in 1 day. Now, a lot of people are just glossing over this and they say, well, you know, it's not really that important a term. Trust me. There's a lot of these 5 days that are going right up to the 5 days and the buyer's not producing the deposit. And now the seller is pissed. Okay. So change it from 5 to 1. Okay. So if the buyer isn't going to give you the deposit in 1 day, how much marketing time have you lost? 1 day. Okay. And utilize Payload Keybox. So as you're agreeing, as a listing agent, as you are agreeing to accept an agreement of sale, change the 5 to 1 and supply the link to our Payload Keybox to the other agent and say, here you go. You can get the deposit into our escrow account literally in 5 minutes. Now, if the other agent balks, that should be a semi-red flag to you. Now, I know there's some people out there that are saying, hey, I don't really like to put my banking information online. I get that. Great. Then go on out and get a certified check and get it to us in 1 day. All right. So I'm just saying I have seen tons of these deposit agreements fall through because agents and buyers are learning that if they don't give the deposit, there's nothing you can do about it as a listing agent. Not one thing. Yeah, Bob.
In dot loop, under the clauses,
Mhm.
there's some standard clause in there. Could you put the Payload Keybox link in there? That would make it easy if you're replying back to the agent and the contract's accepted.
That's a great idea. Can you make a note of that? Yeah. For those of you that are on Zoom, Bob Rose said, could we put a standard clause into our agreements of sale that just has the Payload Keybox link? That way the other agent has it when you're delivering the agreement of sale. So thank you for the suggestion. All right.
So I have that right now.
Mhm.
People from Texas were supposed to overnight their deposit.
Mhm.
It's a mess. Wife's like, I'm not buying it. Husband's like, we're buying it. I'm in the middle. So deposit's due tomorrow. I sent a release with 0, 0. Should I have done that? Like, do we need an actual release if the buyer won't hand over any money?
That's the other thing I'm hearing from. Do we terminate the agreement? Is there a release?
I sent a release, but of course the seller's not signing it.
Yeah. So who's the problem here? It's not the seller, it's the buyer. So who should be the one that instigates either the release or the termination? The seller. The seller should, because the buyer doesn't have a leg to stand on. Buyer can't cite anything in the agreement of sale that says, hey, I'm going to terminate because of this. There's nothing there. Okay. Yeah, Bob.
I have another question. What if they deliver a check, but it hasn't cleared? Will the company go after them for a fraudulent check?
You can do that. Anybody can go after for passing a fraudulent check. But once again, that's the other nice thing about Payload Keybox. It is instantaneous. You know whether the money's good right away. If you have checks that are delivered that are personal checks, it takes sometimes 7 to 10 days for it to clear. So you could, even though they give you a check, now you wait 5 days to get the check, and now another 7. Now you're into it 2 weeks, and the check bounced. Use Payload Keybox. Okay. All right. So measuring square footage. Let's everybody go back to pre-licensing class. Where, by the way, in pre-licensing class, they didn't even deal with how to measure square footage. But this is becoming a problem. And once we get to one of the slides here, I'm going to share with you an actual transaction that was out of this office that fell apart because of what I'm going to show you here. Okay. Now, measuring square footage hasn't really changed, even though I have up there changed. It's now just being enforced. It's now being enforced. And who comes up with all these things about how to measure square footage? It's the American National Standards Institute called ANSI. ANSI, okay? So I'm going to show you a couple of slides of a floor plan, and I'm going to show you how square footage should be measured. So here is a first floor plan. And by the way, before I get into this, I want to compliment Homesale Mortgage. They put on a webinar about this very topic just about a week ago. They had Steve Brown, who is an appraiser over in New York, was on it answering all of our questions. And it was, first of all, it was a very well-attended webinar and a lot of great information. In fact, I believe it's actually recorded.
Yeah, there's a recording of it.
Yeah.
Anyone needs it.
Anybody wants to look at it. But I basically borrowed a lot of stuff from Steve to show you here, okay? So here's a first floor of a 2-story home, okay? Fairly basic. So the yellow part is what is measured in square footage according to ANSI. Now there's a couple of things here that some people look at and say, what is this? Here's one of them. You will notice in the garage is where the washer dryer is. Notice that that's not part of the square footage, even though a lot of people would include that, okay? It's not part of the square footage. It's not part of the finished area of the house. The second thing here is the covered patio. Now, most people who have been in the business for quite some time realize that you can't use a covered patio unless it's heated and cooled and all that kind of stuff. And you got to be able to use it year round. Have to be able to use it year round. There's a lot of people that get confused with this when they have portable heating or portable cooling that's out in the covered patio, which is enclosed with glass, and they say, well, that should be counted as square footage. No, you can't count it as square footage because it's portable heating or cooling. This isn't so bad, but let's get up to the second floor. Here's a second floor plan of this same home. That can be included in square footage. Now, a couple of things here. A window that does not extend to the floor. So if you have a window box seat, okay, nice bow window that's 6-8 feet wide and goes out 2 to 3 feet, you cannot include that in the square footage of a house. It has to go all the way down to the floor. And here's the one that's causing a lot of heartburn. Openings to the living area below. ANSI says you cannot include this in square footage. Now, a lot of people, I think, are okay with that, but I've heard like 15 different ways to calculate square footage on this. And I'll talk about builders for one. A lot of builders will say, multiply this whole thing, this area by 1.5. Okay? No, you can't multiply that times 1.5. That is excluded from square footage, which I'm telling you, if you look at any builder's plans, it's not going to be according to ANSI. So be aware of that. If you are working with a builder, either as a buyer or a seller, which I'll talk about in a second, make sure you're aware of this. Make sure you're aware of it. Here's what caused the problem in the transaction in this office. We sold a property. We had actually both sides of the transaction. It was dual agency, but it was one agent in this office and one with another office. And it was a 3rd floor in Lidditz. And what I'm about to describe to you describes about half of the properties in Lidditz. Okay, if you've ever been in the old properties there, you go up to the 3rd floor, this is what you'll see. Okay, so here's the first part. Space where ceiling is less than 5 feet is not counted in the area. So that shaded area, you cannot count in square footage. You can't count in square footage. Here's the next thing. At least 1/2 of the finished square footage must be 7 feet where this ceiling slopes. So you see here, this is 7 feet from here to there, and the rest of it is less than 7 feet. That's questionable as to whether you can count anything there as square footage at all. And that's what happened in Lidditz. In Lidditz, the 3rd floor, you go up there, full bedroom, finished off, really nice, actually a fairly large, and the ceiling height overall was 6 feet 10 inches. The whole 3rd floor could not be counted as square footage. Have you been in homes like this? Okay. So here's what happened. Everybody's going along. We get the appraisal back. The appraiser is using ANSI standards, didn't count the 3rd floor in the square footage, which was a substantial amount. And by the way, if you can't include the square footage, you can't include it in the room count either. So they were buying a 4-bedroom home, and the buyer came back to us and said, I just saw the appraisal. The square footage that you guys quoted is wrong. And you either let me out of the agreement of sale or I'm going to sue. Okay? So don't let this happen to you. Now, when Steve was on the call to us, he said, listen, yes, I cannot include that in my appraisal. However, I will be able to make an adjustment further down the appraisal, you know, where they have those columns where they do pluses and minuses. He will add a plus, and this is Steve talking, maybe not all appraisers, but he will add a plus to the bottom that says, hey, there's 3rd floor square footage that because of the ceiling height, it can't be counted, but I'm going to add this much to the appraiser or the appraisal. So he will account for it, but that's Steve Brown. Not all appraisers are Steve Brown. So keep in mind as you have these slope ceilings. Here's a couple of other things. This was interesting. So you have a ranch style home. You have a ranch style home, entry in the front, and in the back, you have something that looks like this. And you have that portion, literally 6 inches to a foot, that kind of slopes up the back. That is now technically everything is below grade, which means the rancher has how much square footage? 0. Let that one sink in. So it has 0. Once again, Steve says going to make adjustments down below for this unique circumstance. Now, the reason why I'm sharing all this with you is because there's ANSI standards, there's builder standards, there's assessors that are out there, you know, just walking around the house. There's all kinds of different square footages. And it's becoming more and more confusing. I'm going to add some more confusion here. So here are key points to keep in mind. If you are working with a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac appraisal, what I just showed you counts. However, if it's FHA or VA, at least at this point in time, ANSI standards aren't being used. So it depends upon the mortgage amount also. Public records and assessments do not use ANSI standards. So I know a lot of us, when we list a house, we go into public records in Bright and we pull out, 2,400 square feet. Where'd we get that from? From public records. I'm going to make a recommendation in a moment about how we utilize that information. Okay. So here are some other things that you need to be aware of. Detached in-law quarters are not included in square footage. I know this has always been a question of people who say, well, this structure is 2,300 square feet and I got another 700 square feet out there. So I'm just going to add them together for 700 square feet. You can't do that because in this particular case, you may not be able to see this. This is an open breezeway here. So it's not attached to the house. So that portion can't be included in square footage. Okay. Here's another one. You have a house and you have a garage, but above the garage, they have an office, a guest area, you name it. It's up above the garage and it's beautiful. You can't use it because it's separated from the house. There was all kinds of questions like, well, I walk out of my house into the garage and then there's steps from the garage that go up to the second floor. I've seen this occasionally. Can't use that because the garage is unfinished space. You have to go from the finished area. It's all got to be connected together. Okay. So keep in mind as you're going out there and listing houses, or if you're dealing with a buyer, some of these rules are going to kick in. So what you should do as a listing agent, clearly document in the MLS the source of the square footage. Now I talked to Janice about this. Janice automatically puts in that it's from public records. She puts that in the agent remarks, which is great because I think we're now covering ourselves. All right. But if you are entering listings yourself, which you can do, make sure you put that in the agent remarks so that the agent is aware where you're getting the square footage. If you are dealing with a builder as a listing agent, talk with them about their promotional material. I'm not saying change it, just talk with them about it and share the ANSI standards with them. Because I guarantee you, builders are measuring this stuff differently. And if they end up in a situation where they're building a house for somebody that what they think is 3,000 square feet and it goes by ANSI standards and it's 2,700 square feet, you're going to have a beehive on your hand. Okay. If you are a buyer's agent, explain to your client the different square footages. And I know you're sitting here with a quizzical look on your face and saying, well, hell, I don't even understand this. How am I going to explain it to a buyer? Do the best you can. Do the best you can. Same thing. If you're selling new construction, get the plans and understand how square footage is measured. Right. And I had Dan, I just wanted him to comment for like 2 minutes. Suppose you have something that comes across and you as the person, the appraisal comes across, and you as the agent are saying, well, this isn't right. How do I appeal this? Dan, do you want to speak to this briefly here?
Yeah, so Homesale Mortgage, as well as most lenders or every other lender to my knowledge, has a formal process to essentially appeal an appraisal. It's basically called a reconsideration of value. So our process is we actually have a form that we can provide to the agent who wants to appeal the appraisal in some form. And it's a matter of filling it out. If there's any specific comments or questions or information that you want to provide in the rebuttal, you're welcome to fill that information out. And of course, if there's any comps that should have been used, you would provide those as well. And then we submit that information through our underwriter to the appraisal management company. And then the appraisal management company sends it directly to the appraiser for review and consideration. So anything that you provide will be sent to the appraiser, will end up to the appraiser. And from my experience of 18 years in the industry, that's always been the case with previous companies I've been a part of as well. So I would assume that virtually every lender works this same way. But there's a process involved. One of the questions that has been posed to me is, by, I guess, both the buyer's agent as well as a listing agent as well, can I contact the appraiser? And essentially there's nothing that says that you can't, but we can reach out to the appraiser and said, well, the listing agent said this, or listing agent said that. So we have a formal process that we need to follow, as all lenders do, for compliance purposes. But as far as what happens between the agent and the appraiser, you know, that's between the two of you. I guess my recommendation would be to take the formal process and path to make sure everything is done from a compliant perspective. And I think at that point in time, at least every, every reconsideration of value will at least be reviewed by the appraiser.
And it's different with, as you said, it's different with every lender. And by the way, appraisers, they can thumb their nose up at you and say, I ain't taking a second look at this at all, period.
Tom, I've had appraisers call me frequently and discuss, and then, it seems to be fine.
And by the way, it all depends upon your appraiser. The Steve Brown and the webinar that we were on, it was clearly conveyed to the group. Steve is one of those guys that'll take calls from agents, and he will listen to what the agent has to say. Now, he may not agree with you, but he'll take your call. I do know appraisers that basically will not take your call. Okay. So it happens, but I just wanted you to be aware of the process that you would go through in case something happens and you're trying to work hard for your client. And that would be a case where, go see Dan or the lender that you're working with and ask him to go through that process. So thank you. Okay. All right. So what do you do when buyers bail on you? And we've all had this. Where, as I said, some people are in the middle of a transaction, they're getting cold feet. Some people have been going through this for a while, and they all of a sudden just say, I'm done with this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. This is the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. I'm an FHA buyer that needs seller assist, and I need all the inspections, and no one even looks at my agreement of sale at this point in time. And by the way, as I say that, I just heard from an agent yesterday, FHA agreement, asked for 2% seller assist and asked for a home inspection and got it accepted. Talk about a changing market. Talk about a changing market. Signs of a changing market. Marketing time is on the rise. Now, I'm seeing bits and pieces of this. It's not substantial at this point in time, but I am hearing things from listing agents, which is just, it blows my mind when I hear this. Gosh, my listing's been on for a week and I don't have an agreement of sale yet. In the old days, if it was on for like 2 to 3 months and you got an agreement of sale, you were doing your job. Okay. You got 3 offers versus 20. Okay. And in many instances with people in this room, you got more than 20 offers. Okay. And then you get price reductions. I've just seen a first couple price reductions come through. This is where I believe listing agents, you need to be careful out there. As I said, I think we're in a changing market. CMAs are becoming much more valuable at this point in time. Just don't let people list for anything. Okay. Like you could 6-9 months ago. Fear creeps in when this stuff happens and people have a tendency to bail. Okay. So here's one objection. I'm going to wait for interest rates to go back down. Dan, do you have a comment on this one? Or do you don't want to touch this one? So let me share some history with you about interest rates. And yes, I go back long enough that you're going to see a graph in a second that I went all the way back to the beginning of this graph in my career. Bob probably has too. So in 2006, 2008, when the Great Recession hit and we were in the midst of it, believe it or not, the Fed cut interest rates, which then caused mortgage rates to be cut to 5.5%. Keep that in mind. They were cut to 5.5%, which means they were higher than that before the Great Recession. And then COVID-19 hit. and we had all the problems dealing with COVID-19 and getting people into properties and all kinds of issues. So the Fed stepped in again and cut interest rates to 2.5%, and mortgage lenders then cut their interest rate. So you see, the reason why we are or were in the place that we were was because of two incredible events that caused it. I don't know about you. I do not want to go back to COVID-19, and I don't want to go back to the Great Recession. You're here. So I don't think we're going to be dealing with 2.5% interest rates anytime soon. Okay. That's the graph that I was telling you. I actually showed this a couple sales meetings ago. That's the history in the last 50 years of interest rates. And look where we are today. And everybody's going crazy at what, 5.25 plus or minus, Dan? Yeah. 5.25, and everybody's saying, my gosh, they're outrageous. We are in a great spot. So if people are waiting for interest rates to go back down, good luck with that one. Okay.
Just use the gas analogy. You know, if you're going to wait till fill your tank, till gas is down $4 a gallon, you'll run dry.
There you go. I'm going to wait for prices to come down. People are out there saying this appreciation rate that we've been experiencing can't last forever. Prices got to come down, right? And once again, this is all about supply and demand. I'm not going to give you an economics class, but I'm going to deal with some really basic things here. This is what the supply has looked like in Lancaster County over the last year. All the way on the left was a year ago. We were up above 1,600 units. We're now down to 450 units. This is the supply. Your supply and demand, if you know anything about economics, you can't have falling prices here. Okay, it's just not going to happen. So in waiting on the sideline overlooks the fact that home ownership for most people is the single largest contributor to people's wealth. So if they decide, I'm just going to sit and wait. Here was the median price in Lancaster County in April of 2019, hovered around $200,000. 3 years later, we're at 280. If you look at that, we've gone up almost 40%, and somebody who bought 3 years ago basically has $79,000 in equity buildup. And if they waited on the sidelines, that wouldn't be possible. Look at this. Even if prices do decline or at least slow down, it's still about the monthly payment. So you guys know I love to crunch numbers. So I crunched some numbers for you so you didn't have to. So using that $280,000 home from last month, and we had a 5% down payment, that's what your monthly payment would look like. That, by the way, that's principal and interest, $1,469. Now let's assume that prices do go down. Let's say they go down 2% from 280, okay? And I crunched the numbers for you. And interest rates tick up, let's say 0.25%, which is highly likely. There's your monthly payment. Keep in mind, prices went down. And let's suppose interest rates go up 0.5%, which is not out of the question. That's your monthly payment. So sitting on the sidelines, a lot of things come into play here. It's not just interest rates, it's where prices are also. So just because one goes up or one goes down, they inversely are related to each other. Keep that in mind. I think I'm going to sit tight in my apartment for a little while. Okay? I love my little apartment. Here's the national rent growth over the last year. Okay, there's two lines here. The darker of the two is a 1-bedroom apartment. The light blue is a 2-bedroom apartment. This is national figures. I'll show you Lancaster in a second. These are national figures. Year over year, we're up almost 14%. So if you wait around and stick in your little apartment, this is what you can expect. This is Lancaster County. Lancaster County was 12.2%. So this is specific to our county. All right. You're not getting any further ahead by sitting in your apartment. Okay. And finally, I can't afford to buy the home that I want. You know, I started out 9-10 months ago and I wanted this home, and now it's out of reach and I can't buy that home anymore. So this is the one that you wanted to buy, but this now has the same monthly payment as it did 9-10 months ago. At some point in time, show them the previous 6 slides. If you're going to continue to rent, you're not gaining. You're not gaining anything. If you want to wait for interest rates to come down, if you want to wait for prices to come down, at the end of the day, you're not saving anything. As a matter of fact, I just showed you, you're losing wealth. So start out with this one, and in a couple of years, move to that one. Break the news to them kindly. Okay. So those are some objections I heard. I'll leave you with this today. It takes half your life before you discover life is a do-it-yourself project. This is by Napoleon Hill. If you've never read any of his, stuff, please do so. He is from many, many years ago. Okay.